hallucinating talking to you and you're not talking to your mom, that would be my reality. And I'm sharing this, and you understand why I'm sharing it so openly. So I was in this struggle. I had this friend every now and then. They would talk to him and he would talk all this Christian stuff that I really didn't understand. At the same time, like every third word in my mouth would be a cuss word. My hair was growing. I had t-shirts of Guns N' Roses with all those skulls and stuff. It's like, yeah, rock on. That would be me. Dar even said, like, can you put on the pictures? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Not safe. I don't think I have those pictures even, Tar. So I was growing older, and I was so lost. At the age of 16, when there was another fight, I left the home and I started living with my brother, who was 7 years older than I was. And he had also already left the house at an early age. So I stayed for a couple of weeks with my brother because the fights at home were just really, really bad. Not just between mom and dad. As I was getting older, I started to defy also particularly my dad also a lot more. In a very disrespectful way also, I may add. So I was with my brother. My brother said, yeah, I cannot take care of you. I have to send you back to mom and dad. So I went back to mom and dad. And it was in this time that I had a conversation with this Christian friend that said, we need to have a talk. I see that you're not okay. And it's like, no, I'm okay. Remember the mask that I was talking about in the beginning? No, I'm okay. It's like, no, Patrick, you're not okay. He started to tell a very tiny little story, and it went like this. Imagine you're on a ship. Imagine you're on a ship, like the Titanic or something. And that ship is sinking. And you're on that ship, and you know that you're gonna die. You just know. There's no rescue team or anything. You know you're gonna die. And all of a sudden, you see a cord, a rope from heaven coming down, with this voice saying, grab the rope, Patrick. Grab the rope. He was telling me that story. He didn't continue talking about the Bible or any of that stuff. He wasn't imploring, and now you're going to say the prayer. Nothing of that stuff. I just heard that story. And that story just kept on echoing in my mind. Grab the rope, Patrick. Grab the rope. I'm like, grab which rope? What are you talking about? Time went by. I continued to hang out with the friends on Friday. Go up to Rotterdam to the coffee shops, because I felt so empty from the inside. All those questions that particularly teenagers have. Who am I? What am I living for? What's the purpose of this anyway? It was at this time that my friend said, I would like to invite you, my Christian friend Hank said, I would like you to invite you to our Christian fellowship. It wasn't related to a church directly. We're just teenagers and some young adults coming together to discuss the Bible. Now I was, remember, fear, suspicious-minded. I was a little bit like, oh, they're going to try to convert me, right? So I was like, well, yeah, I can come, I guess. So I went, crossed all the city to go to that place. And as I was standing in front of the door, I wanted to ring the doorbell to go inside. There was this voice suddenly that I heard. Not an audible voice, but something that you were hearing, like, Patrick, don't you ring that doorbell. Don't you ring that doorbell. It was the voice that I remember very well from a long time ago. It was the same type of voice. It's like, don't you do this. So they were having their Bible study, and I was standing at the door and said, okay, I'm going back home. So I biked back home. And I was sitting in my bed thinking what just happened here? The next week, it was Friday evening again, I was laying in bed and I was feeling like a black cloud was hovering over my head, that I was feeling most of the times. And I said I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And all of a sudden I heard the doorbell ringing. And it was my friend Hank. He said Hank. I went downstairs and said Hank, what are you doing here? And they're well, I came to pick you up because you didn't show up last week. And they're oh, okay. I was trying to make up excuses for me not to go, obviously. But I was looking into somebody's eyes, and I was seeing something that what is this with these people? what is it with this friend of mine? It's so different. I want that. Because I didn't have peace whatsoever for my soul. So I said, okay, you know what? I will come with you. So I grabbed my bike. We went there to that place. There were Christians from Pentecostal churches, from Reformed backgrounds, from all kind of directions. They came together and were just studying the Bible together. And they, for the first time in a Christian country, well, post-Christian country now, but they were explaining about the gospel. Now, I went to a Christian school and I heard the stories, but I didn't have the first clue about what the gospel was. I thought Jesus just was a nice man that performed some miracles perhaps, and with the miracles was already thinking like, well, And they were explaining, and this time I heard another voice. So like, you're my son. And I was like, what? I didn't know what to do with it. I saw the love that these teenagers had for each other. It's like, it's just amazing. I thought that Christians would be just fighting with each other. In fact, in Holland, we have this saying, one Christian, one church, two Christians, two churches. Because they cannot, stand each other that well. That's what I thought. So I saw this unity, and John 17 talks about it, this unity. When you see the unity, the world will be convinced that there is a God. And I was seeing it right in front of my eyes. And I thought, wow, what is this? So I biked home, and as I biked home, the following day, that voice came to my mind again. Grab the rope, Patrick. This time I understood what the rope was. It was Jesus. It was Jesus, the Savior, that wanted to save me. Wanted to set me free from depression, from guilt, from shame, from fear, from a number of things. And I was sitting in my bed, on my bed. I didn't understand anything about the Bible, really. I just heard some Old Testament stories. That was all of it. And I remember it was the 13th of November, 1993, on a Saturday. I was just sitting and saying, like, God, I don't know how to pray. I have no idea who you are. I'm a mess. I'm such a mess, God. If you want something, if you want me, you can just have it. Just have it. Because I can't live this way anymore. And when I said that, I didn't even say in Jesus' name or any of those, what you would expect. This is how you need to pray. I just said it. I was just talking. I felt a weight coming off my shoulder. It's like, it was there just for ages. It's like, I wanted... And my face started to change. I was looking in the mirror and I was looking at my eyes. It's like, what is happening here? What happened? So I went downstairs. I was still crying. I never cried. Boys don't cry. That's how I was taught. And my father saw me for the first time after, on that same night. And he was looking at me. He didn't say a word, but you could see like, what just happened to you? My friend Henk, he invited me to come to his church. It was a Pentecostal happy clappy church. They were speaking in very interesting languages that I thought like, what are they talking about? And I thought like, what is this? But I thought like, well, I'm in love with God, because I felt like, this weight was off my shoulder, and I was singing songs, listening to a sermon of 1.5 hours. It was a Pentecostal church of Indonesian people. And I didn't understand one word of it. But I was reading my Bible. In fact, in the 3 months following the day that I, got saved, I was reading this word in 3-4 months. I didn't understand half of what I was reading, but I was so in love with God. There was something in my eyes that I was just dating. It sounds very sacrilegious, but it isn't. I was dating God. That's how it felt. I know it's not like that, but that's how it felt. Like I felt a love from the inside that I never ever had experienced before. Because what I experienced before was particularly fear, which started at a very specific age that I remember till the day of today. As time went by, my parents saw that I was changing. And although I was part of a bit weird church, my parents are like, oh my gosh, Patrick has become part of a cult. He lost it. He went over the edge. So my father Now, instead of the man that started to, send me to a Christian school, he started to persecute me in the sense like, you're throwing your life away. You don't know what you're doing. These Christians, they are hypocrites. What are you doing? What are you thinking? When you die, you go 6 feet under and that's it. And that started to become intenser and more intense and more intense. To the point that the next year, the following year, 1994, the persecution became so bad. But not just the persecution, also the fights between mom and dad, sometimes over me, but sometimes over other situations as well, became so bad that it became unbearable at home. So even though that I had the love of God now in my heart, the situation at home was saying a very different story. It was December the 31st of 1994, and we were supposed to celebrate New Year's Eve with my uncle and my auntie. And I was looking forward to that, spend some time, that kind of stuff. But my dad, at that point, he was so unhappy with himself. Now I understand, and we are past that. I forgave, all that stuff, it's gone. But at that point, he was angry with himself, he was frustrated with his work, he was thinking at the age of 40 when he could retire. That kind of stuff I was hearing at home. And in my family, as you know, we are, well, maybe you don't, we are musicians. Like, we all love to play music. And one particular instrument, it's called the accordion. But the accordion, if you know what it is, it's a very heavy instrument. So I was playing that, and I love to play it. I play keyboard because it's a bit similar, but it's not my instrument, it's actually accordion. And on that night, the 31st of December, my dad didn't want to go. I was like, no, I'm not going, you go. And that would usually be the answer of my father. If he would say yes, then 5 minutes later he would say no. And at the age of 16, 17, I got fed up with it, and I just confronted him with it, straight in his face. At which point he grabbed his accordion, he put it over his head and was about to, a 15 kilos instrument, he was about to throw it at me from 2-3 meters distance. My mom intervened. She's like, no, this is not going to happen. And I ran away. I ran from home. I ran to the other friends that I used to hang out with, that on Friday